Hey guys, welcome back to my podcast called Actually Anything. It's the podcast that's actually about anything. And my guest today for episode 3 is Mike Pelczar.
Yep, that's right.
One of the easily, and I'm not just saying this because you're right next to
here it comes.
One of the best photographers that I know. So if you're booking a Sweet 16, you're getting married to your high school sweetheart, and anything, whatever the hell the occasion is, call my man Mike. He'll do the job for you, top notch. And I do photography too, right? I'm a huge lover of photography, and I figured, hey, you know what? Since we're both into it and it's kind of what we do, let's make an episode about photography and like why it's awesome and why we love it.
Well, thank you for saying that, first of all, but you are a great photographer too.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I have a lot to learn, but we'll get into that. It takes time, like anything.
Absolutely.
So, beginnings. Let's get started from like where you said about 5 years ago.
Yes.
Got your first camera.
Yeah. So I was given my first camera as a Christmas gift. I had no intention of becoming a photographer. I had no intention of starting, a photography account or anything. I really only wanted a camera to take pictures of the things that interested me in life. And not particularly good pictures either. I just wanted to have some kind of like record of them. I can remember like being a little kid and taking pictures of things. So I guess you could say technically my interest started that early. But, it was never, back then it was never really about making a scene or making a certain kind of theme or anything. It was really just about documenting the things that I liked and I saw.
That's cool.
So that's really where it got started.
Before I even had a camera in general, I knew I liked photography. I liked the whole idea of it. I used to think like, oh yeah, I'm taking pictures with my phone. I'm doing photography, but yeah, I definitely not. It's once you realize like you have an actual camera, it's like, this is crap. Like I know. And yeah, so I got mine about. There's a Nikon that I use for everything. I got it about 3 years ago after I graduated as a gift from my dad. And, but I look back at it and, to like my time at college, and if I had it at school, I could have done so much more. Our school had a magazine, a newspaper, and like I could have did that. I could have got more experience. Because now I do sports photography too, but if I had the camera at the time, I probably even could have went to the games and like did photography, for like
hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's funny that you say that because in college I was actually our campus's social media person on the St. John Staten Island campus.
Right.
And I was actually hired as their photographer / social media person. They didn't have either of those. They didn't have a social media program and they didn't have an on-campus photographer. So it was my student worker position. I built up the Instagram. I was taking pictures for them. And that's really how I got my start. And that was great for me because it allowed me to practice photographing events without the pressure of actually doing it for a client. So, for St. John's, I only had to post 1 or 2 pictures of an event on Instagram or Facebook. So it didn't really matter if all my pictures were terrible from the event. When you're giving your pictures to a client, you need a lot more than that,
Right.
So while I was still learning, I had that safety net to fall into. I was photographing, lectures on campus and Greek week activities and things like that. And my pictures were far from perfect. But, I would get like 2, 3 really, really nice ones. And I would use that as our post in the beginning. And then, as time went on, I became more consistent. I started getting like actually paid bookings.
Good.
So I started, learning how to be more consistent with that, be able to deliver like a good product, which is not easy, but again, like everything has a learning curve. So
what was your first camera? It was a Nikon or a...
I don't remember what my first camera was.
You
actually.
Still have it?
I don't still have it.
Oh no?
I don't still have it. I wore it to the bone. I remember that. And I actually had a few I don't know what you would call them, not DSLRs, like consumer end digital cameras,
Oh,
like really
yeah, I've had
cheapy,
that.
like
Right.
digital cameras.
It's funny that you bring that up too, because my dad had this one, and we I brought it with me when I went on this trip to Italy, and like I said, I look back at something like that too, and if only I had like this camera,
Right, and I look back at things like that too.
Yeah, because I'll look at those pictures from Italy, and I'm like, oh yeah, these are nice, but if I had this camera, like it.
There's things that I
yeah.
photograph that I wish that I had a good camera to photograph, and
Right.
I'm like, I would love to use these pictures now, but I can't.
I know,
because they're not that
unfortunately.
good. But if I had a real camera, they would have been really good.
Yeah.
So, it's just one of those things, but
Mhm.
but you live and you learn, and now I try not to go too many places without
Right.
my camera.
Oh,
in
no,
case.
same. It's literally attached to me practically. It's always around my neck. I always have it on me in my bag. No matter where I go, finally got a legit camera bag. I was literally carrying.
Very nice.
Yeah, thank you. I was literally carrying around my camera wrapped around in a fucking bathroom towel in like a strap bag that you just wear. It was like not even safe for the camera. Like if I dropped it,
Of course, but
So-
you make do when you're
Exactly. So that's kind of like so you get as you get better photographer, you get better with your
Yes.
you get more equipment. You get more jobs. You
Totally.
get more,
You take it more seriously.
Started off with a strap bag.
You
now I get the
realize
legit,
you realize why
bag.
those things are necessary.
Yeah.
Like when you
It's a
first
learning
start, you
curve,
don't
it's
get it. You're like,
experiences.
whatever. Like I'll just throw my camera anywhere, whatever.
Right.
When you become more experienced, you realize, oh, like I can't scratch the lens, I can't get dust in the lens,
Mhm.
and so you realize that all those like annoying things about taking care of the camera are actually necessary.
Right. No, 100%. I not on this lens, but my other one, which is obviously it's a 70-300. That's obviously my better lens, and it's more money. On that one, I have a screen protector glass
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. Which is obviously really important. It's funny because I'll shoot for the College of Staten Island, and when I do sports photography, baseball, right? So it's not really my favorite thing to shoot. Only like something about like college baseball could get a little boring sometimes. But I bring it up because sometimes like when these guys hit the ball, it goes in all different directions. And there's been like times where like it definitely almost went near me.
Wow.
If that shit hits my camera, like hopefully it wouldn't break the camera, but it would
It
totally
might.
fuck up that protector I had on
Yeah.
it. But I don't know, maybe the protector would save the lens.
Better the camera than your head, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Depends on how expensive the camera
Exactly.
is. I
To
think.
be honest, man, I'd rather take a little hit to the head. To stitch me up, I'm good. My camera.
Yeah.
God.
Yep.
At this point, it's like my camera matters more than my own
Yes.
life.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck?
It definitely feels that
Man,
way.
it is my
sometimes.
life. You know what? Now that they also bring that up, this was so I've been shooting for Staten Island for like 2 years to college. This was a year ago, like last May. I actually did have a camera bag, but it wasn't nothing like that. It was kind of like this one where
Yeah.
you just put a few things in the lens. It doesn't really have much. It was a shoulder bag.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but for some reason I used to just leave my. Now I had the camera on me, but the rest of the stuff I had in there, like a charger, I had this other lens, a 70-300, but so I would just leave it, just sitting alone.
I know.
I don't know why I did
And
that.
I'm sometimes guilty of that too.
Yeah.
Because when you have your camera in hand, you're trying to get a shot, and the last thing you're worried about is like, where is my bag?
Right.
Because especially at events and with sports and stuff, like it's a minute that these things happen.
I know.
Maybe less.
And
Somebody gives
Yeah.
somebody a hug and they're both smiling and it's a great picture. If you're lugging your bag around in one hand and your camera in the other, like you may
Mhm.
not be ready to get that shot.
what was stupid?
So
of
you
me-
always have
yeah.
to have a place for it.
Right.
So usually, like when I'm doing outdoor stuff or whatever, I'll try to ask whoever hired me, like, where can I leave
Right.
this? Like,
Somewhere safe.
right. Because I have left it in unsafe places for sure.
Well, that's where I messed up because I literally because I'm a staff, right? So they have the on baseball games they have the booth atop where everyone sits, and I literally could have just left it up there, like it would have been. But no, like an idiot, I left it under the bleachers, and at the end of the game, I went to go get it. This was one of the last games, so there's a lot of people. Anyone could have, and someone stole it.
Yeah,
and it was like it really broke me down. Like I was depressed for like a week or two, and I was beating myself about. I was like an idiot. I even had a little vape pen in there too. Like so I was like
so you had everything.
Yeah, so it was just all a big like F you to me. And what annoys me most about it is the fact that I guarantee the person that took it does not own a camera, has no idea how to even use the lens, had no idea even what it was maybe at first, and literally all he's getting out of it is the parts. He probably just sold it. You know what I mean? And the pen he probably kept because it's I had stuff right. Yeah, and it's just. It annoys me to think about that, but
yeah.
Ever since then,
you live and you learn. You live and you learn. It's
exactly.
better to make your mistake early and then learn from it than.
It almost worked out because I ended up I got the same lens but a better version of it. So that 70-300 one I had was only manual. It didn't have automatic.
So I would say it did work out, and
in a sense.
Sometimes you just gotta look at these things as inconvenient as they are, as opportunity.
Right.
Because
I would
if you don't, then
I would probably still have that
discouraged.
shitty lens and never would have gotten the better one. So like maybe
sometimes
it was almost
it
like
pushes
a blessing
you
in disguise.
into action for sure.
Right. Let's talk about so if you guys follow Mike on social media, and his Instagram, Mike is very big on portraits, which he's actually going to do for me soon. And because portraits are very big things. You need them for jobs and work and overall just looks. Especially girls, they love like good.
Of course, everyone likes to be their best self on camera for sure.
100%, and not everyone knows photographers, or and like your phone isn't always enough. You want like really good shots, right? I try to do extra work, so getting a good headshot can make a huge difference, and I don't really have great ones, so that's why I definitely need a better one. But I was bringing that all up before because besides portraits, Mike is very big on themes, especially around the holidays.
Yes,
and I know Halloween is your biggest one.
Yeah,
Halloween
is my thing. I love Halloween, so Halloween's always been my thing ever since I was a little kid. I was that weird little kid that loved Halloween and cemeteries and witches and things. I got a conduct notice in kindergarten for telling the kids that aliens were going to abduct them in the classroom. So I was that kid. And
you actually got like in trouble for that?
Yes, I did. I really did.
People like legitimately scared. They were like,
yeah,
oh God.
No, and the teacher spoke to my parents about it.
Oh my
she was
God.
like, "You can't be saying these things." so I was that kid.
Hey man, in a way you're not wrong because I am 100% convinced aliens have fucking been here.
Listen, we've had sightings on Staten Island of UFOs.
No, we have
just
not.
saying.
Have we?
Yes, we have.
Yikers.
Which we can talk about later when we talk about.
Funny that you bring that up. There was one time where I was a kid. And, maybe it was just a helicopter, I didn't really understand, or like a loud-ass plane. But I swear to God, I'll never forget this day. I was in my room, and I saw this thing circling in the sky, and it was mad loud. It was like, brrr. I swear, I'll never forget. And I was like in awe. I was like, what the fuck is that? I was like, I don't know, because now that I think about it, I know what a helicopter sounds.
Could it have been a UFO?
I don't know, man. It had this weird red dot on it, too, and it was just going around like almost like my neighborhood or just the area. I don't know. It bugged me out a bit, but
at least you weren't abducted, right?
Yeah, I know, right?
But anyway, so that's always been my thing.
Yeah.
And when I started my photography Instagram, I would incorporate that kind of stuff a little bit, a sprinkling every now and again, just because it was my personality. So like Friday the 13th, I would like sometimes post something. Any occasion that I could post something, I would, but not too much because the people who were following me were mostly people who either I knew in person or who had booked events or were going to book events. And I didn't know how it would translate to, like, would they like it? Would they think it was interesting? Or would it put them off?
Right, because it could be a little intimidating.
It can be a little intimidating.
Yeah. I've even, like, 1 second, I know some girl, she's, like, a really good makeup artist. And some things that she has posted, especially around Halloween time too, like is like gory stuff.
Gruesome.
But then I'm surprised to see that people are like, oh, this is sick, this is awesome.
I think more people are into it than I thought.
Right. I think it has to do with like Hollywood nowadays, like a lot more I think people are just used to it more now.
I think, Halloween is now
Walking Dead,
the second largest retail holiday in the country behind Christmas. So, and
100%.
Christmas is huge. So for that, like, that's a big deal, I think.
Right.
So I think there's a cultural attitude like that stuff is cool now.
Mm-hmm. It's cool too because when I see you do these themes, like Halloween, for instance, you get a lot of your friends on board with it, and like these are people I've met before.
Oh
so
yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's like awesome to see
what
you do to them. How you transform like.
It's a little bit like American Horror Story, like a lot of the same faces every year in different ways. But like the song 12 Days of Christmas, I do every year a series called 13 Days of Halloween.
Right.
And
how long have you been doing that for? Just like
I think it's been 3 years now.
Wow. Okay.
3 years. I'd have to check that. It's either 3 or 4. And I started it one year on a whim. I was just like, well, I want to take a bunch of pictures of Halloween stuff, and I really don't know how to post them. At that time, you didn't have the scrolling option that you have on Instagram now.
Oh yeah.
That you can post
you can also
multiple
post
pictures.
Oh, that's what you meant.
That's what I
the
meant.
10, yeah.
Yeah. So like,
I hated that at the beginning.
I liked it in the beginning because I'm that person that can never pick.
Right.
So I'm like, I'll just put them all.
Right.
But back in the day.
I hated when we didn't have that option.
Oh yes.
I would have a bunch of cool pictures.
So did I.
But then it would. I look back, like not too long ago, I went back to look at some old shots, and I would see how a lot of pictures could have just been in like a group. Were separated,
of course.
and like I even like deleted some old ones because I was like, all right, this is like a little too much. I was like, it was.
Of course.
No, I love that we were able to.
But back then you didn't have it,
No.
so I was like, all right, how am I gonna do a bunch of photos? I guess I'll just do the 13 days leading up to and including Halloween because 13 is a cool, scary number, and it just makes sense. And
I think it ended up being better too.
And people liked it.
Yeah.
People liked it way more than I thought they would. And before long, I think it was probably after the second year that I did it. So the first year, like, people liked it. Everybody said that they liked it. It had a good feedback. Some of the posts were some of my most liked posts that I'd ever posted.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, this was good. So I'll do it again. And I did it again, and
kind of found like what you were really good at,
Yeah, it was, and it's a combination of I'm passionate about that, but also people kind of expect that from me. Like, if you know me, that's sort of like what you want to see me do anyway.
Right.
Just because that's my personality. But
it's
anyway,
great,
like this, after the second year, that's when I started having people who I didn't even really speak to that much come up to me and talk about it and say, like, that was crazy. What are you doing next year? Like people who I really wasn't that close with, and when they would come up to me and talk to me about it. And that's when I was like, wow, okay, I really think I did something with this one.
I think that's also why, like, I originally DM'd you. I think I just really appreciated your work.
I think that actually might have been how we started talking, which is crazy.
But that's what I love about, like, Instagram, is it's just a perfect social media tool to network. Also,
oh yeah,
I met tons of
connect with
photographers
great
and people
definitely.
just from that. That's why it's like it's definitely good that we have stuff like that nowadays. It's easy to stay connected.
Yeah, and keep up with each other's work and collaborate and things. It's very convenient.
Now, because I know you also did 12 Days of Christmas.
Yeah, so that was later. That was I think that was in the third year of 13 Days of Halloween. I figured, well, if it's working so well for Halloween, I know people like Christmas as well. So I assume it would work, and it did, and people liked that series too.
One of the funniest, the best ones was his friend. He turned him into an elf on the shelf.
Yes.
Like the amazing Photoshop is really incredible. Was it like here or like
that was at his house?
Oh, okay.
And his house is
they decorate like really well.
They decorate really well, and they have like a big stone fireplace and some old furniture, so it really looks like the North Pole in his house.
Yeah, and you literally turned this 6-foot guy into like the size of this water bottle. Like,
yes,
right
and people lost their minds because he has like a funny personality. Like, he's a funny guy, and like when people saw him as a little elf, like they lost it. So that's one of the ones that I got a lot of comments on too. So I try to keep it like fun and also cool. Like, I'm not taking it too seriously.
But, you know, I think that's what's, like, perfect about that. Literally what you just said. You know, you don't take it too seriously, but yet, like, it works. You know, you don't always have to
You don't always have
go
to
out
make
of the
it
way
dramatic.
to... Yeah,
and,
right.
And, you know, it can
Yeah.
be fun sometimes. It can
Uh-huh.
be fun sometimes.
But, yeah, sometimes just, you know, just having fun with it and can end up being more...
Better.
Yeah,
Better.
than if you're, like, thinking too much about, like, what you're going to do. And, yeah.
Definitely.
But once I saw that, I noticed you were doing it. I was like, oh, I got to get on this. I was like, I want to help out, right? So, I think it was like for Christmas Eve. It was like one
Yeah.
of the last ones.
Yep.
We met like I think like a few days before Christmas Eve, and it was at your friend's house.
Yep.
And Mike turned me into
Krampus.
Yeah,
Yes.
the spooky demon
Of
that
Christmas.
takes the souls of naughty children.
Yes.
It was a little too harsh, you know. Like if anything,
Yeah,
put them in
it's definitely
timeout, take away their
definitely,
PlayStation, but
no nonsense parenting.
right, he does
but,
not fuck around with it.
Right, but you know, back then in Europe, and that was like a tradition that people had. As Father Christmas would come, so would Krampus, and if you were good, you get gifts, and if not, you get beat. On good
Like
occasion,
what was that?
the switches, like
yeah, you even
and
had
it's
that
like,
too. I was like,
yes,
oh.
and I did, and so that was like your hope. Like you hoped that you got beat, and if not, then you would get abducted and taken to his lair and maybe eaten. So it was
oh
like,
my goodness.
right. So like you hoped for the beating. So we turned you into Krampus. We got a red cape and we stuffed you with pillows and we put you out on a ledge.
And all that.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, it was a normal night out, but again, like I was imagining something in the snow.
Mhm.
We didn't do any makeup on you or anything.
No.
So when I took the picture into Photoshop, that's when, you know, it kind of came together. And I started doing Photoshop before I started doing photography. So it's second nature to me to edit pictures. I feel like when I do photography, I'm not so much anymore looking for what's there. I'm trying to create something that I'm imagining.
Right.
So to
right,
do that,
unfortunately, you can't always get
right.
the setting you want.
It's hard.
And,
I mean, listen, like you could do it. Like you could wait for that one snowy night, and you can. But you know, it's very tough, and especially when you're on a deadline.
Right.
So
also, you know, it's holiday season. People are busy. You know, like it's tough to even get people to come. You know, like to make appointments and
like I could do these shoots all year long.
Yeah.
Technically, but I don't, which I really should. But I feel that there's something valuable about doing it in the time of year that it actually is. It makes me feel more inspired, for sure.
Yeah.
Like when I go outside and I see people with Christmas lights up and there's music playing in the stores, it makes me feel good about doing the series at that time.
You
and
can
the
see,
same thing
a
with
lot of people
Halloween. The same thing.
Yeah. You know, it's funny when it comes to lights. My dad's huge on that, right? He loves putting like for the different, even St. Patrick's Day we have like green lights out. But yeah, for like big things like Christmas, we put lights on, but not a lot of people on my block do. So it's like depressing. You'll be walking down and like only like my house and maybe like 2 or 3 others have lights, and like everyone else is like a.
You always want to
Grinch,
see.
like...
You always want it to be like a Hallmark movie,
I know,
where every house has lights. But
now,
I get it.
Don't
People
get us
are
wrong, because
busy.
some places on Staten Island are like
Like
amazing.
that. Oh,
you
absolutely.
can literally take a drive, like almost like in Bensonhurst in Brooklyn.
Yes.
You drive around that area. And it's like
I photographed last year at a house that was like unbelievable.
Yeah,
with the amount
I actually
of
went there. I did a
decorations that they
video
had.
on it because it was literally. This is one house. It's like literally called like the North Pole. There's like a giant Santa, and it's like wow.
So,
Like
I have to
that's
tell you, I
incredible.
don't know if you knew this. This is a funny story about that house. So, I saw that house because a friend of mine was doing work with a local photographer, and she was taking some pictures of the different lights around Staten Island, and I loved it. I was like, wow, that's probably the nicest decorated house on the island. It's a big house. It was extensively like lit and decorated, like with every prop that you could imagine, like totally insane. And I was like, I have to do a shoot there. So I asked my friend, like, where is this house? And she was able to give me the address. At the same time, I was on Facebook and I saw the house on somebody's post, and I was like, oh my god, that's it. It was a video by the local paper, the Staten Island Advance, and someone had shared it. One of my friends had shared it. So it turns out that it was my old college professor who shared it, and it was her parents' house.
Really?
Yes. So I was like, oh my god, this couldn't be easier. So I
Yeah.
just sent her a message and I was like, can I please take a picture outside the house?
Oh,
And
I
she
did
said,
see
of
that
course,
picture
of
too,
course. She was like, enjoy. So, like that made my life easy. And it's also a really funny story about Staten Island because that's exactly how it is. Like you throw a rock and you hit somebody that you know on
Right.
Staten
Yeah.
Island.
No. It's like a good and bad thing because
It's a good and bad
you
thing.
see, I like it in the sense where you could kind of go anywhere and it's like, oh hey man, like I literally just saw you the other day, like
Yes.
unintentionally, you know. But then it's like if you have beef with people, then maybe that's a bad thing.
That's
You're
why
at the
you
mall,
got
you
to.
cross eyes. It's like
That's why you got to mind your P's and Q's
exactly,
sometimes.
exactly. Yeah, Staten Island. Staten Island's got its.
And Staten Island is one of my favorite places, I think, because
Especially
not
for
only
photography, it's great for.
it has a huge
greenest
variety of different settings. Like if you
Yeah.
want old houses, you got old houses. If you want like colonial houses, you have Richmond Town, which I feel like
Smoke
where
Harbor
do you
too,
get
you
that?
got, like-
You have woods, you have a mountain, a small mountain, but it's a mountain. You have the shore, you have beaches, you have pretty much anything that you have an urban area towards the North
Right.
Shore. You
kind of get a little bit of everything.
You really kind of
Yeah.
get everything.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons that I think it's so cool. And of course, the other reason is that it has a lot of ghost stories attached to it.
It does. Yeah. Right, now that you mentioned spooky,
Yes.
Staten Island. Let's get into this because this is really huge. I remember you started this. I think it was like a Facebook page
Group
first.
Facebook group
Right.
first.
And
Yep.
you started this page called Spooky Staten Island, and like Mike said, Staten Island has a lot of places you could take photography, but included in that mysterious places include very haunted.
Yeah,
kinda like
definitely. A lot of ghost stories.
Staten
Absolutely.
Island has a lot of history. It's been around since like
The 1600s.
Yeah.
So we have a bunch of history. And a lot of it's been preserved on Staten Island, which is not the case everywhere. But like Richmond Town has houses from the 1600s.
Yeah, and they're still up and
they're still standing.
It's
So like
incredible.
that's amazing. And I think that's the example of like how much history still survives here. My interest in that stuff is like natural. I love Halloween,
Right.
and it all made sense. And I actually just found
it was almost like a matter of time.
it was almost
like,
a matter
yeah.
of time, and I just found I was looking. I had my Facebook memories, that they show you. 4 years ago you posted this or whatever, and I found a post from 2014 that I did, and I listed like a lot of the haunted places on Staten Island, and I was just like, oh, do you know this and this and this, and I wrote about the
Right.
conference house and a few other places, and I remember at that age, like I was just finding out about that stuff. I must have still been in high school, and I just thought it was the greatest thing ever. Not much became of it. I started doing my photography, started doing 13 Days of Halloween, and then eventually I thought to myself, there's an awful lot of spooky stuff on Staten Island.
Sure is.
I feel like maybe it deserves its own place to exist, like, and be, counted for.
Right.
Like everything highlighted and the stories get told. So I thought the group would be a good idea. I was invited to the Facebook Community Summit for 2019 through my work with the Nicosia Group, who's my employers. I do their social media and photography.
Oh, okay.
And
They work at like venues and stuff, right? They own.
They own the
lot of
Hilton,
venues
the
here.
Hampton, the Commons Cafe, which is 100% profits to charity.
Do they?
Lorenzo's.
What about the Island Chateau?
They don't.
Oh, okay.
They most
My friend
properties
had a wedding there.
most properties on South Avenue on Staten Island.
Oh.
They own.
Oh, okay.
Wow. And they're great people to work for, but my work through there attracted the attention of Facebook. They emailed my boss. They said that our statistics on our social media had flagged us as potential candidates for this conference. So we went through about 6 months of interviews, and finally we were selected to go. Out of like I think a few hundred people across the country,
Right.
and actually from other countries as well.
Wow.
So it's a very exclusive. It was an exclusive kind of deal, and we met executives. We met like Sheryl Sandberg, Mark Zuckerberg spoke to us. It was
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
It was a crazy thing.
That was
they
all-
flew us
that
out
was-
to California,
Oh,
all expenses paid.
wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was so
When was that
crazy.
again?
That was in
Sounds
late
awesome.
January, I think, early February, sometime
Was that
around.
your first time out in California?
That was
too?
my first time in California.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it's beautiful,
I
and the
kinda wanna
weather
move
is
out there.
nice, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just nice. But
That's cool, man.
but anyway, like they were speaking to us about changes that were coming at Facebook, and one of the things that they spoke to us about is that groups are more important now. People want to be in groups. They don't want to deal with their racist uncle on their timeline, saying whatever. They would much rather be in a group where people talk about whatever they want to talk about.
I'm on, sorry to interrupt, I'm in a few groups too. Staten Island actually has a nature photography page.
Yeah.
And I'm in that. And, I'll bring that up real quick. Like, Staten Island has, like, bald eagles and seals and, like, amazing wildlife, and it's, like, really cool. And, like, other ones, like, I'm in, like, a Super Smash Brothers group. But, not like, the groups are, like, really fun.
Yes.
It's definitely a good part of Facebook.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of inspired me to start a group. And, it just felt right with Spooky Staten Island. I thought surely that all these people will have stories.
It's literally, like, the most perfect place.
Right, and I'm like, all these people are going to have stories about growing up and the things that they knew that I don't know, because I learned so much from the group. I knew a few things going in. I knew about the conference house, and I knew about Richmond Town and the Kreischer Mansion and things like that. But, like they told me about the Miller Field plane crash that I did not know about.
Oh, I didn't.
That it was the worst air disaster up until that point in United States history. And one plane fell into Brooklyn, and the other fell onto Miller Field.
Oh
and
my God.
All the passengers passed away. And
I had no idea.
I had not a clue. I had not a clue until someone in the group told me. And actually, people say that they see ghosts on Miller Field. They say that there's people in suits as if they're, passengers.
Like at nighttime or like?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and like that was something that I had no clue
You know what's
about.
funny? Because they still have that, that abandoned aircraft building there.
It makes sense, but I never thought about it.
Yeah.
So that's just like one example.
That's nuts.
And the group was going well. I said, all right, like let's make a Facebook page, a page itself, and let's make an Instagram page too. And I wasn't really sure like what direction it was going to go in, but I just knew that there was a lot of material.
Were you surprised by how much it blew up?
Oh, totally.
Right?
Like, I did
People
not.
loved it, man.
We're almost at 3,000 Facebook likes now, which I think is crazy because
it
only started in March.
Yeah.
So I think like that's super crazy.
But I like what you did with it too, because it's not just your stories, like you said. So now anyone could really just submit to it. Like, well, Instagram's different because I think that's your Instagram account, right?
The group, anyone can submit anything.
Oh, so they'll send stuff to you and you just...
Yes.
Oh, cool.
The group,
awesome.
Absolutely. Like, we talk about all different things in the group. The Instagram and stuff is mostly things that I curate. Okay. So, like, I'll go and take pictures, or I'll, like, see something in history and then write about it myself.
Did you know, like, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What's, like, one of the... Besides that one, what's, like, another crazy story?
So, I think one of the craziest stories on Spooky Staten Island is that we had... in the 1920s, there was this family who lived on a farm on Staten Island because at that time it was mostly farms.
Oh,
yeah. It was deserted.
Staten Island was never supposed to be.
It was deserted.
Congested, yeah.
And a stranger came up to the house and there was a little girl playing in her field outside, and he said, "Oh, like come help me pick rhubarb," which is something that you would pick back in the day, and now still, but. Anyway, he was a stranger. It didn't feel right. The mom came outside and chased him away, but he came back, and he actually slept in the family's barn, which is like big weirdo energy. Yeah. And the dad...
Big creeper status.
Yes. And the dad came outside and was like, "What are you doing here? You gotta go." Yeah. And he left. Nothing of it. They were all fine, and nothing ever happened to him. But that guy was Albert Fish, who is a prolific serial killer of children. And he was known as the werewolf of Wisteria, the vampire of Brooklyn. According to him, it was never verified how many people that he killed. According to him, it was over 100. There's no proof.
100 kids? That's fucking crazy.
Yes.
Man. Oh my God.
And
but like obviously like any kind of murder in general is terrible, but like why?
No, that's especially heinous. Kids? That's so heinous.
And it makes you such a prick too, because not like I said, like murder is awful, but to do it to like you're not even like doing it to an adult man that can actually like fight back. You're literally like doing it to like kids that have no idea what's going on.
It's horrible.
Imagine thinking a kid thinking like someone's trying to kill me.
It's the epitome of evil, and that's why I think it's one of the
Is he still alive?
The craziest. No, this was
Good.
he was an old guy in the 20s. He was actually executed for his crimes.
Good.
He got the electric chair.
They should still have things like that. I say bring back public, like the stoning. And honestly, I guarantee if they had like things like that where you could just publicly humiliate like some scumbag, I think there would be a lot less crime.
It seems that way
honest,
sometimes, right? Honest. I don't know, but
after watching Game of Thrones too, like I want to see some beheadings. Like I sentence you to die.
Yeah, instant justice.
Yeah,
but,
honestly.
But I think that's like, and that's something that I never knew about, and I knew who he was though because of true crime documentaries and things like that. But never did I think that he had a Staten Island connection, and that's not his only Staten Island connection. He supposedly abducted a little boy from Port Richmond too.
Wow.
But I don't think that was ever proven. But, like, to have this prolific serial killer use Staten Island as hunting ground, I thought was, like, mind-boggling.
Mm-hmm.
Especially at that time. Back in those days, that wasn't a thing. Like a serial killer. And, like, yes, they existed, but, to have somebody caught and their crimes detailed, it was, like, unheard of. It was so shocking to people. And, this is the time when people left their doors unlocked and, nobody thought that
it's a shame
something
what
like
it's become nowadays. And everyone's like,
well, listen,
so
I don't
terrified
think it's, this is a whole nother tangent, but I don't really think it's that there's more crime like that now. I just think that we're much more aware of it.
Yeah, that too.
So, like, even now, like, if I left my door unlocked, probably no one would come in.
Right. Like,
but if they did,
trust in your neighborhood
but
too,
if they did, that's the issue.
Right.
So, like, in theory, anyone can leave their door unlocked, and probably nothing will happen to you.
Right. No, like, we've accidentally done it before, and, obviously we've been fine. And I think it also, like I said...
It's always, you're just afraid of that 1% chance that something really bad could happen.
Because, like, for instance, I trust my neighborhood and my neighbors, and, like, just in general, where, like, I know it's, like, it's okay, it's a good area, but at the same time...
You never know.
There was one night where we left our car door unlocked and we noticed some things missing, like some little change. So, people do wander around and, they might go into your neighborhood, for instance, and you're blocked that one night. So you gotta, it's just...
You have to be careful.
I know.
But I thought that was crazy, and like, we also had somebody in the 1600s who, this is way back in the day, but in Connecticut, she was tried for witchcraft 3 times. And she actually...
there was witch trials in Staten Island. Right?
So there was no witch trials on Staten Island because New Amsterdam was not as superstitious as the other colonies.
Okay.
It was a Dutch colony, and like in the home country, like they abolished witch trials before a lot of Europe. So like when they came to the New World, it wasn't really a thing. We did have, I think, like accusations, but nobody was ever, to my knowledge, executed or anything like that for witchcraft in New Amsterdam. But in Connecticut and stuff, a lot of people were. Wow. So this lady lived in Connecticut, and she was tried 3 times. Her mother was tried for witchcraft. Her daughter was tried with her on the 3rd time. And they actually survived a water test. So back in the day, I'll explain it. Back in the day, it was believed that a witch the devil would preserve a witch, if she was in danger.
Oh, right. You throw water and, like, Wizard of Oz.
No, not like that.
No?
That's where it comes from, though.
Right.
Like, that's so what they would do is they would put weights on you and throw you in water. And if you floated, you were a witch. If you sank, you weren't. Obviously.
So if you sink and they're like, oh, that person's sinking, we got it. All right, someone dive in there.
Or not, and they just die.
Oh, God, that's awful.
But that's what happened to these ladies, allegedly. And, apparently they survived, so they were rescued. But they didn't float, so they were acquitted for their crimes. They weren't, there was like, all right, I guess you're not witches. And after that, they were kind of done with Connecticut, so they left, and they went to a safer place, New Amsterdam. More specifically, Staten Island.
Of course.
So, like, pretty crazy, right?
That is crazy.
And, like, there's so many stories like that. And that's what, keeps me going with the group. I just find it so interesting to learn these things.
The only thing I ever really knew about, or kind of looked into, was the Seaview Hospital, because we have an abandoned hospital here. And that's always something I heard about growing up. My friends would always go there, because it's cool. I've seen some photographers go there, too, and you can get some like, really nice shots during the fall and stuff. But, for some reason, I just never had an interest of going there. I heard some, like, weird stories. I also know the place is, like, really old, and I feel like
it's dangerous.
It's only a matter of time before like it's gonna just collapse and you're gonna fucking.
No, it's
really
definitely very dangerous. And
I've heard there was devil worshippers there. Like,
people have said that for sure.
So it's not really my thing. But you know what's funny? Like I wouldn't want to go there, but I'd probably want to check out other like places, like that aircraft, like maybe walk around in there.
Of course.
But it's just it's just little things like that.
Like I would love to go to more places on the island, but. Our group is not just for oohs and ahs. Like we did a cemetery cleanup.
It's like a history
like where
kind of lesson
like
too,
we're trying to be an active part of the community.
You did that?
Yes, we did.
That's nice.
We did two actually.
Wow.
So
dude, let me know if
yes, definitely. So we're trying to be an active part of the community. So I do not endorse trespassing of any kind for our members.
Right,
I would never trespass for pictures.
Just to get to,
asking for permission and going in is one thing, and I'll do that. And I'll ask anybody for clearance to go anywhere. Yeah. But I'm not like an urban explorer. I think it's really cool, and I have a lot of respect for that art form. And it is so nice to get these pictures of places that you wouldn't otherwise.
Right.
But it is dangerous, and it's very dangerous, and a lot of people have been hurt doing it.
Right.
So
there's a reason why.
There's a reason why it's
not even just because they don't want it, just because
it's dangerous. Yeah. If something falls, if you inhale asbestos, whatever. I mean, there's a million things that could happen. So it is dangerous. So that's why I'm always like if somebody posts in our group, because there's certain spots on Staten Island that are like known that you can sneak into, not to name any, but
whoopsies.
But and it's like known, and like you could ask like anybody, any adult or whatever, and they'll tell you, we used to go there and party when we were younger or whatever.
Right.
And people want to post about that in the group, which I get, and I wish that I could like allow it, but at the end of the day, it's just not safe.
Yeah. You don't want to encourage anybody to
exactly. Like I don't want someone to say, "Oh, that's cool, I want to go there," and then get hurt.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because then like if they put blame on something, they might put blame on like the admin.
And I'll always put like if I do get permission to get somewhere, I'll always put like
so just make it known that like I'm not going there.
This is not accessible to the public.
Right.
Like I'll always like put that if it isn't. Like I went to the Reformed Church in Port Richmond, which is really interesting. It goes back to the 1600s, and they have a bell tower. Not open to the public by any means, but I have a really good relationship with them. I've helped them on a few different things.
That's cool.
So I asked them for permission to get into the bell tower, and they let me, and I had to climb like 3 of the most like treacherous staircases that you can imagine to get up there. Like little flimsy little like wooden things in this pitch black attic above the church. And the bell tower is so high. Like if I fell from one of those stairs, I may have died. Like that's how bad it was. Port Richmond.
Oh, Port Richmond. Oh, yeah. Now I know what you're talking about.
So it is not safe for sure.
No.
So I totally see why it's not open to the public.
Yeah. When we were talking a lot about all these old stories and stuff, I think about this a lot. Like if only we had the camera equipment we have now back then. Like imagine like the history we could have seen.
I know. Like it amazes me that we have any pictures from back then.
I know. Like when did photography really start? I know it started black and white.
The 1800s was when photography like became a thing.
They had the things that it almost looked like the camera exploded.
And it took forever to the exposure time took forever in the beginning and things like that.
It's incredible. Like it's just
nowadays you just take out your little phone, which fits in your pocket, and click, and
So imagine like back then when people were like photography, for instance, you could literally talk about like anything, but like in terms of photography technology, you think people ever would have thought like, oh yeah, well. Like, what if someone was in that time, like a time travel? I don't know. And he was like, yeah, well, do you know, like, maybe like 100, 200 years from now, we're going to have a phone that could literally just be...
People wouldn't even, like, be able to fathom
probably think I know.
They wouldn't even be able to fathom it.
Like, we probably wouldn't be able to fathom, like, what's going to be...
Oh, absolutely.
Right? It's going to be insane.
It's going to be insane.
But we're kind of, like, at that point, too, where, we know sci-fi, so we see movies, so we kind of almost, like... know what to expect, or like
sort of. We have like an idea. I mean, I think
some of it too.
Even back then, like they imagined like certain things,
right?
But it's always different how it actually happens. Like in the '60s, everybody thought there'd be flying cars. There's
Right.
no flying cars. But, like, that's one of those ideas, like, oh, that's going to be the future.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, like in what's a perfect Back to the Future.
Right.
Back to the Future is a perfect example. They actually traveled to 2015, and then they have like the hoverboards. They got
right.
the flying cars and stuff.
Not
and it's
accurate.
like no.
But at the same time, we have phones that they
Far
couldn't
off.
have even, like, dreamed of.
Right. Yeah.
So, we'll see. Like, I'm excited to see
I'm
how
excited to
things
see
go.
like where photography is going to go.
Oh, yeah,
in
me
that
too.
Sense, because like
Definitely.
you look at it now and it's like, oh, like how could it even get better? It's like, what could they do? I don't know. Like video games, for instance, is cool because now you're doing that whole VR thing, and before you know it, they're gonna have like the Oasis. Like, did you see the movie Ready Player One?
I've heard. I
Yeah.
have not seen it.
It's
I'll
cool.
admit.
It's basically picture like VR when you wear the helmet, but now you're getting like a character, and now you're in the world. So like you're still where you are. You could be like standing up like this. But now you're walking around, you're in this whole world, and it's like that's kind of what the movie was.
It's
like,
pretty
awesome.
cool.
Yeah. So like that's what I'm saying. Like if they could do that with video games, like photography is gonna go.
I'm
a
all
long
for it.
fucking way.
I'm not one of those people that's a traditionalist. I'm excited for all the new stuff.
Yeah.
I'm always down to use new stuff whenever
Definitely.
I can.
I have a question for you. When you were doing the spooky Staten Island, the 13 days of this one girl I know you took a picture of, Heather.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a real goat?
Yes.
Was that real? Where'd you get the goat?
So,
it was like a baby goat. It was like the cutest thing.
Yeah. No. So, I make a habit of making weird requests on Facebook. Like, who has a goat? Like, that's the kind of statuses I'll make all the time. And with varying degrees of success. But I always find that, like, somebody knows somebody who has something. And, it's funny, like, Melissa, whose goat it was, she went to St. John's with me.
Why she just has a goat?
So she has 3 pet goats. She lives in Jersey.
Oh, she has a little
she has a
farm
little
area.
Yeah,
kind of?
it's
cool.
it's adorable.
Goats are awesome.
But never
animals.
would I have realized that she owned goats. But
Yeah.
it came up, as these things do. In my life, these things come up, and she's like, "Yes, I have a goat." And so we went to her house and we, photographed the goat.
It was awesome.
The
man.
goats have attachment issues, so they need to be near each other.
Aw,
So we had to tie them up near the photo shoot
okay.
so they could see each other the whole time.
Wow.
It was really cute. And then we took the pictures, and it was a fun, crazy experience.
That's fun. May I suggest, because like if that was the only time you really had like an animal like with a person, right? In a shoot like that.
More animals?
Yeah, no, because like honestly, this is
Definitely.
perfect place. You've probably heard of it. I think it's in New Jersey. It's Wolf something.
Yes, I've heard, and
that place where
I
you
would
could
dying
be with
to
the
get
wolves.
there.
Yeah, I'm sure like
dying
they
to
allow
get there.
photography, so
I'm
all you
dying
need,
to get there.
you just get the picture of like someone sitting.
No,
have
it would
a
be
wolf
perfect.
Or 2 right here.
Absolutely.
Photoshop it. It'd be fucking epic. Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's definitely that's definitely a thing.
You know, what'd be really cool too. You could if you're like Game of Thrones fan, get someone to dress up like a Stark.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Right?
For
And then
sure.
but make it like a spooky, or like because Stark is kind of like winter's coming, right? So maybe you could even save that for Christmas.
Yeah, totally.
Do like
It'd be
but it
awesome.
would work for either
Definitely
one.
more animals.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting more used to working with animals, and I enjoy it a lot. So you're gonna see more animals as
Cool.
time goes
Oh
on.
yeah, honestly, man, I'd love to help Al and me, Patty.
Yeah, definitely, of course.
Because I loved what you did with Krampus. When you sent me the picture of like how it all came out, like I was like, wow, that's me. I was like, that's crazy. As I remember, you even told me to stick out my tongue, like just pretend you're like the guy from Kiss.
And then
I was like, all right, and then you had the horns. And it was great.
Yep.
I guess like last thing I wanted to mention, Photoshop's pretty big. I know like that's what kind of you base a lot of your work around. It's great. I wish I had it. There's ways to learn it. Right now I just use a phone app, Snapseed. It's okay
good
for
for
the
your.
time
I
being.
think I'm sure it's
got,
good
like,
for your purposes.
Aspects of Photoshop where
You'll
you
know.
touching
You'll
up.
know when
Yeah.
you need to upgrade.
Right,
Like you'll be like, all right, like there's no choice now.
Uh-huh.
Like, and that's what it's hard for me because I didn't have that moment. I started with Photoshop, but for example, like I had that moment where I was like, all right, I need to upgrade in terms of shooting raw.
Right, and, like,
because there were
portraits
things that
are
I
really
could
good for
edit
it.
that
Yeah.
I would never be able to edit without that. So, you'll know when the time is like, all right, now I have to do this thing.
That's a good point, man.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's such a cool thing that we have nowadays. That's like a perfect example too of how like photography has grown.
Oh yeah,
just
absolutely.
having like the tools to like edit the photos also, you know. So it's like really great. One day I'm gonna get it. I have to, you know. But like you said, it's not really. You can't just buy it anymore.
You have to
right?
get a
You have
subscription to the Creative Cloud.
Yeah, that's kind of annoying.
It's annoying, but
Yeah.
you know, then again, if you make money on it, it's worth it.
That's
So
true,
you
man.
know, you gotta monetize your
Yeah.
photoshopping.
Yeah, my man. So that, you know, I think that pretty much concludes it. You know, we
Yeah, it was awesome.
We talked. We basically covered everything. Staten Island. So you know, if you're into photography and you live in New York, check out Staten Island. Staten Island is. I'm like plugging Staten Island.
It deserves it.
It does,
it's
man.
The forgotten borough.
It is.
We're trying
and there's
to.
So much.
We're trying to make people remember.
Right. And coming from Mike and I, since we're both photographers and we both kind of like doing portraits, if you're into something like that, it's good to do that. Get pictures of your friends. You like landscape, we got that. Animals, and you kind of get a little bit of everything. The city life, the urban life,
and if you like spooky things, you know where to find us.
Right, find us on find him on Facebook, just Spooky Staten Island.
Spooky
right?
Staten Island.
Yeah, and it was a great idea. It was awesome.
Thank you.
Mike has 3 skulls.
Yes.
In his basement, and I touched it. I was like, "Oh, this isn't real, is it?" And he was like, "Oh, no, it is." And I was like, "Oh shit!" Like now I'm like cursed. Nah, but yeah, like that. They're really cool.
Good company. Don't say much, but good company.
Right. I noticed one of them was a little darker. Is that
different conditions?
Just older, or
different conditions
okay.
Affect the the patina is what it's called.
Thought that was like amazing though, how like, you know, skeletons could just almost last forever, you know.
Pretty much.
They just don't.
Well, then again, it depends on the soil and all those things.
Right,
but like
true.
in good condition, yeah, it's crazy. That's the one thing that's permanent about us, you know.
Yeah. Right.
Not to get too dark here.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. On a lighter note, guys, if photography is a great thing, you're trying to get into it, don't hesitate to buy a camera. It might change your life. It changed mine.
Definitely changed mine.
Definitely changed yours. It's great for meeting people, and it's just. I think it's one of the best things we have nowadays.
For sure.
I encourage everyone to do it. It's a great thing. But
thank you for taking the time to speak
yes,
with me.
thank you, Mike, for inviting me over. This has been Actually Anything. Take it easy, guys.